This video is brought to you by me. For $1 a month, you can support the channel directly and help me keep doing what I love. Thanks for watching and supporting. Goldeneye 64 rightfully gets a lot of credit for revolutionizing the first-person shooter genre by taking 007 off of preset rails and giving players total control. Any 007 game that followed it would have pretty large shoes to fill, and so similarly to how Need for Speed Carbon is a perfectly fine game, it had the unfavorable task of following Most Wanted. The World Is Not Enough on N64 similarly bears that burden, while also carrying its own unique demons it needed to slay to be taken seriously. Not only was it following GoldenEye 64, it was also in the hands of a brand new team. Initially Rareware, the team behind smash hits like Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Killer Instinct, set their sights on the 007 license in order to make the movie tie-in game to end all movie tie-ins. They were successful, to say the least. It was so highly regarded, it was recently re-released digitally on Xbox with the licensed characters and all. But Rare wasn't involved with The World Is Not Enough. Instead, Electronic Arts went into a partnership with MGM in order to turn their IPs into video games. EA set forth to capture the same lightning in a bottle that Rareware managed to harness 3 years before. In order to do so, EA would give development responsibilities to Eurocom. While the PS1 would also see a release, that game was handled by yet another team and was so different that it might be worth a video all by itself. We'll see. Eurocom was gearing up for a new generation of consoles that would follow the N64 and PS1 by building their own first-person gaming engine, with the main appeal of it being scalable and adaptable. After showing their work to EA, they got the job and modified the engine to take advantage of the N64's strengths. After all, what better way is there to display how scalable an engine is than dumbing it down for a rapidly aging system? When all was said and done, The World Is Not Enough would be Eurocom's last release on the N64. The company seemed happy with the final product, calling it a swan song for the N64 that pushed the system as far as it would go. But now, decades later after it was released, we can take a look at it for what it was and let it stand on its own. So was The World Is Not Enough the successor 007 fans deserved, or was it bogged down by the movie it was attached to? Let's find out. I wanted to go into The World Is Not Enough with an open mind, but my expectations for the game were through the floor. Sure, Rareware struck gold with their movie tie-in, but no way would EA and Eurocom be able to pull off a sequel, especially when the movie it's based on isn't nearly as liked as Goldeneye. Right? But then it dawned on me shortly after I started playing. There was a familiarity to it, to the way the game felt and handled, so I did some research. Eurocom was also responsible for Nightfire, one of my favorite 007 games to date, so maybe I shouldn't count my chickens before they hatch. I'm glad I decided to approach the game with the idea that it could surprise me. I mean, as someone who loves Pierce Brosnan's take on 007, I don't think the follow-ups to GoldenEye were that bad. Except for Die Another Day, there's a reason the entire franchise was ripped to the studs and rebooted after that. The World Is Not Enough covers the events of James Bond's adventure to protect Elektra King and her recently murdered father's oil pipeline from the cartoony and video gamey Renard. He's a terrorist who feels no pain thanks to a bullet in his head that is slowly working its way inward to the core of his brain, and when it does, he will die. So he lives without a fear of death and sets off to steal a nuclear submarine. I think it's a better popcorn movie than people give it credit for. Needless to say, I wasn't immediately turned off by the source material. While GoldenEye is easily one of the best James Bond movies, The World Is Not Enough is fine. Just fine. In fact, the more I played, the more I got excited to see a lot of the movie's biggest action moments portrayed in video game form. While you can't take control of the boat chase from early on in the movie, it's recreated here. But you do get to take part in an on-rails ski chase, the tree cutter helicopters that attack the caviar factory, and of course, the submarine. Each of these sequences are faithfully recreated really well here in-engine, which is quite a triumph for the N64. Of course, there were creative liberties taken to extend some sequences. For instance, while pursuing an assassin who escaped after a bomb went off in MI6 headquarters, there is an extended chase in an underground subway system where you're tasked with freeing hostages and defusing another bomb before more innocent people are killed. Then when you finish that, you grab onto the hot air balloon the assassin is trying to escape on, just like in the movie. The World Is Not Enough is a pretty strong example of how collaboration is a strength. Since EA was in partnership with MGM during the making of the game, the production team for the movie sent all of their production materials over in order to make the levels more true to the film's environments, and it really pays off here. Even though it's been a hot minute since I've seen the movie, different levels were immediately familiar. To add icing on the cake, all of the likenesses of the main characters were present here. Unfortunately, every one of the main characters besides Q is voiced by impersonators, but I was honestly surprised to see just how much voice acting there was in the first place. Some of it is good, and some of it is this.
I feel nothing.
There are a few pivotal moments of the game that could have been improved with some voice acting at all. Like in the film, after Elektra has been revealed to be working with Renard all along, James and her have a final exchange that hits pretty hard.
You wouldn't kill me. You'd miss me.
Yes.
Dive, Bond!
I never miss.
However, in the game, this happens.
Hello, James. Put the gun away. You wouldn't kill me. You'd miss me.
Now, as much as I like how representative of the movie this game is, the source material does hinder the game in some aspects. There is one segment where James is face to face with Renard, who has trapped James in an underground mining facility with a bomb rigged to blow in a matter of seconds. As the player, you take off running. Even though there is plenty of time to escape on foot, the game demands you do the James Bond movie moment where he grabs onto some hanging chains and rides them to safety. Only it doesn't indicate that in any way. You have to have seen the movie to know what it wants you to do. Additionally, the game ends on a pretty low note. As the movie takes place on a sub strapped with plutonium, the end of the game also has to take place here. Did someone order a first-person shooter level with no analog camera control? Yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. It's clunky and bad. But I can't really blame the developers. It's not like they had any choice but to adapt this sequence in the best way they could. It's just not a part of the movie that translates well to video games or fun. In fact, Andrew Elmore, one of my patrons who voted that I should play this, confessed he hadn't actually made it past this level. I don't blame him. It's a pretty dark mark on an otherwise really good adaptation of the movie, and is a great example of how to do a movie tie-in right. In fact, I'm surprised it doesn't get more credit. Sure, Goldeneye did a lot of this first, but in spite of that, it excels. It even delivers a pretty good multiplayer mode with bots, which means I actually got to check it out for once. It was a nice diversion. The World Is Not Enough extends a certain level of polish I wasn't expecting. Naturally, it suffers from the same issue as the game that came before it, where the controls have aged about as well as an ice cube on a Miami summer day. But at least it runs pretty smoothly. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised at how well the movie was adapted into a game and how fun it was to actually play. I really appreciate Andrew Elmore and all my other patrons for voting for me to play this. If you'd like to be a part of deciding future videos, you can check out my Patreon in the link below. However, if you aren't interested in that, you can like the video if you liked it and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more like this. Let me know your favorite 007 game in the comments below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.